Once upon a time in a small village called Umuagu, people gathered every morning at the motor park. Buses came and went, children ran around barefooted, and women sold yam, groundnuts and peppers from wooden tables. Among them stood a handsome man named Obinna. He was tall with kind eyes and strong hands. Every day he roasted yam over a charcoal fire and sold it with pepper sauce. He wore an old apron that was patched in many places. His sandals were worn out from standing all day. People called him the yam seller, and some even laughed because he looked too handsome for such a simple job. Girls often came to buy from him, but their eyes were filled with mischief. Ifeoma was one of them. She was the daughter of a wealthy palm oil trader. She wore bright clothes, fine jewelry, and always walked with her friends who adored her. Whenever she saw Obinna, she would stop and laugh. "Fine face with empty pocket," she would say loudly. Her friends clapped and laughed with her. Obinna would smile and continue to turn the yam on the grill. He never answered back. He kept his calm because he knew they judged only what they could see. There was another girl in the village named Naneka. Naneka was the daughter of Mama Yugo, a tailor who stitched clothes by hand in a small shop next to the motor park. Their life was hard. The sewing machine was old, and sometimes there were no customers for days. Naneka helped her mother with cutting cloth and carrying water. Unlike Ifeoma, she did not mock Obinna. Whenever she passed his stand, she smiled politely. Sometimes she bought roasted yam when she had some coins. When she had no money, she would pass quickly, head down, so that he would not notice her empty hands. One late afternoon, the sun was low and the market was emptying. Obinna stood alone by his stand, wiping sweat from his forehead. His phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. He took it out and stepped away from his stall. He looked around to see if anyone was watching, then answered the call. "Sir, it is me," a man's voice said on the other end. "Your uncle is still trying. He sent men to the city last week. They are asking questions, even here. We have to keep you hidden." Obinna's face hardened. "I understand," he replied quietly. "Do not worry, no one here knows. Let them think I am a poor food seller. It is safer like this." As he spoke, Ifeoma walked past with her friends. She saw him on the phone and laughed again. "Look at him pretending to be important," she whispered. "Maybe he's talking to his imaginary banker." Her friends giggled. Obinna turned his back and whispered, "I will call you later." He hung up and slipped the phone back into his pocket. He took a deep breath and forced a calm smile. That evening, after the mart closed, Naneka approached his stand. She looked tired, and her eyes were red as if she had been crying. Obinna noticed. He asked gently, "Are you all right?" Naneka hesitated. "It's nothing," she said, wiping her eyes quickly. She forced a small smile. "My mother is just tired. Business is slow. Sometimes life is hard." Obinna wanted to offer her some yam. He took one piece, wrapped it in paper and held it out. "Take this. Give it to Mama Ugo. She needs strength." Naneka opened her mouth to refuse. "I can't pay now," she whispered. "You can pay when you can," he said quietly. "Or not at all. Kindness is not business." Naneka's eyes softened. She accepted the yam with both hands. "Thank you," she said. "You are kind." From a distance, Ifeoma watched them. She narrowed her eyes. "Look at that," she said to her friend. "The yam seller has found a beggar for a wife." Obinna overheard, but did not react. Naneka lowered her head, embarrassed. She whispered, "People laugh at you because they think you are poor." Obinna shrugged. "They laugh because they do not know. It does not matter." As the sun set, Obinna washed his hands, packed his pots, and carried them toward a small shed where he stored them every night. On his way, he passed by the tailoring shop. Mama Ugo was sitting outside, fanning herself with a piece of cardboard. She looked up as he approached. "Good evening, Mama," he greeted softly. "Good evening, my son," she replied. "May God bless your hands." "Amen," Obinna said. He handed her the wrapped yam. "Naneka said you were tired. Please eat this." Mama Ugo smiled warmly. "You are a good child. May blessings follow you." Obinna nodded humbly and walked back to his small rented room on the edge of the village. He closed the door and sat on his bed. The room was sparse, with a mattress on the floor and a small table holding a lamp and an old picture. The picture was of a smiling woman, his late mother. She had sold food in this same motor park when he was a little boy. She had always told him, Never forget where you came from. He touched the frame gently. I will not forget, Mama, he whispered. He lay down and thought about his past. He remembered big offices, board meetings, and men in suits calling him sir. He remembered his uncle's voice, smooth as oil, promising to handle the business while he was away. He remembered the phone call that warned him that his uncle wanted to take everything. That was when he decided to disappear. He left the city and came back to Umwagyu with only a small bag. He bought the yam stand quietly and started roasting yams like his mother had done. He wanted to see how people treated someone they thought had nothing. He wanted to understand the pain of those who struggled. As he drifted to sleep, he wondered about Naneka. She seemed different from the others. She didn't care about money or fancy clothes. She seemed kind. He smiled slightly and closed his eyes. The next morning, the motor park woke up early with the sound of horns and shouts. Obinna set up his stand before the sun was high. He placed his yams carefully on the grill and turned them gently. People started to arrive. Some bought, some laughed, some ignored him. Life went on as usual. Around midday, Chief Okari, the village chief, walked through the market, accompanied by two men from the city. They wore shiny suits and dark sunglasses. They looked out of place among the dusty roads and wooden stalls. Chief Okari wore a clean white agbada and a red cap. He walked with his chest out, proud and stern. Good morning, Chief, traders greeted him, bowing slightly. Morning, he replied, barely looking at them. He was busy pointing and talking to the men beside him. They stopped near Obinna's stand. The men from the city looked around and whispered to the chief. The chief nodded. He then looked at Obinna and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ah, the handsome yam seller. Keep up the hard work." One of the city men laughed quietly, and the other wrote something in a small book. Obinna kept his face blank. He watched as they moved on toward the big open space behind the motor park. He could hear them talking about land and development, but he couldn't catch every word. Later that day, after the market thinned out, Naneka rushed to the motor park. She looked for Obinna. When she found him, she said breathlessly, "I overheard something. My mother sent me to get water, and I passed by the chief's house. He was meeting with some men from Lagos. They mentioned selling the land behind the motor park to build a big resort. That land includes my mother's shop and your yam stand. If it is true, we will all be chased away." Obinna's eyes narrowed. He remembered his phone call. He suspected his uncle's hands in this. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "I heard with my own ears," Neka said, fear in her eyes. "They plan to announce it soon." Obinna wiped his hands on his apron. He looked out at the empty space behind the park. He thought of the traders who depended on their small businesses to survive. He thought of his mother who had once sold food there. Rage flickered inside him, but he pushed it down. "Thank you for telling me," he said. "Stay close to your mother. We will see what happens." As Nanika walked away, Ifeoma approached again. She placed her hand on the stand and leaned in. "I hear whispers," she said with a sly smile. "They say important men are coming. You should run before they sweep you away with your little yams." Obinna looked at her calmly. "Maybe the wind will sweep more than yams," he replied. Ifeoma laughed and flicked her hair. "We shall see," she sang, turning to her friends. That night, Obinna sat in his room again. He stared at the ceiling. He felt the weight of a decision pressing on him. He could ignore the coming storm and remain hidden, or he could reveal himself and protect the people. But if he revealed himself, his uncle would know where to find him. He closed his eyes and thought of his mother's voice. "Do not let evil win," it said in his memory. Obinna picked up his phone and dialed a number. "It's time," he whispered. "They are about to sell the land. I can't let them throw everyone out." "Are you sure you want to do this?" the man on the other end asked. Obinna looked at the picture of his mother. "Yes. Prepare everything. Be ready." As he ended the call, he heard laughter outside. It was Ifeoma and her friends again. They were celebrating something. Obinna shook his head. They didn't know the storm that was coming. He turned off his lamp and lay down, knowing that the quiet life of a yam seller would soon change forever. The next morning, the sky was cloudy and a cool breeze blew through Umwagyu. The villagers hurried through their routines. Sensing that something was different, but not knowing exactly what. Naneka woke early and helped her mother fold the clothes they had sewn overnight. Mama Ugo's hands were stiff from sewing, but she smiled. "I heard there will be a meeting at the village square today," she said. "We should finish our work early." Neka nodded. "I will go to the square," she said. "I want to hear what they will say about the land." Mama Ugo looked worried. "Be careful. Chiefs talk, but it is us who suffer." When Naneka arrived at the motor park, Obinna was already roasting yams. He looked up and smiled. "Good morning," he greeted. "Morning," she replied. "Are you going to the meeting?" "Yes," he said. "We need to hear what they have planned." As the sun rose higher, people began to gather in the village square. The square was a dusty open area surrounded by small shops and mud houses. In the middle stood a large tree where elders sat on benches during meetings. Today, the tree's shade was filled with villagers, whispering and looking around anxiously. They all knew something important was coming. Chief Okri arrived, wearing his red cap and a fine white agbada. He stood under the tree and tapped his walking stick on the ground. The murmuring ceased. Next to him were the same two men from the city. One held a file folder, and the other held a pen. Chief Okri cleared his throat. "My people," he began, his voice loud and commanding. "I have called you here because progress is coming to Umuagu. We cannot stop progress. A big company from Lagos wants to invest in our land. They will build a modern resort that will bring jobs and money. Our village will be famous." People looked at one another in confusion. Some murmured, "Resort." Others asked quietly, "What about our shops?" The chief continued. "The land behind the motor park has already been sold. You all have 7 days to move your shops and stands. After 7 days, the company will clear the land. Anyone who remains will be removed by force." A gasp went through the crowd. Traders cried out, "We cannot move." "Where will we go?" a woman shouted. "We survive by these shops," another man cried. Chief Okri raised his hand. "Silence," he commanded. "You will be given a little money to move. That is all we can do." Obinna stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Chief, where will the traders go? Our businesses feed our families. We cannot just move with a few coins." The chief looked at him with disdain. "Who are you to speak when men are talking?" he snapped. "You are only a yam seller. Sit down and listen." Some people laughed nervously. Ifeoma smirked. Nanika felt her chest tighten with anger. She stepped forward too. "He has the right to speak," she said loudly. "He works here. This affects him." Chief Okari turned his sharp eyes to her. "You dare to challenge me," he shouted. "Go home and help your mother sew cloth. This is not a place for girls." Naneka's cheeks burned. She felt tears gather in her eyes, but she wiped them away with the back of her hand. "We have to fight for our lives," she whispered to herself. After the meeting, people dispersed slowly, some crying, others angry. Mama Ugo sat in her shop and stared at the red mark that men had painted on her wall. "They will break this place," she said softly. Naneka hugged her. "We will not let them, Mama," she promised, though she didn't know how. In the days that followed, the mood in the village grew heavier. Men from the city came with measuring tapes and marked more shops with red paint. They walked around arrogantly and joked among themselves. Traders pleaded and offered them food, but they refused. "Orders from above," they said coldly. One evening, as Obinna was closing his stand, he saw Ifeoma approaching. She wore a tight dress that sparkled and high heels that sank slightly into the dusty ground. She walked slowly, swaying her hips. "Good evening," she said sweetly, leaning on the stand. Obinna looked at her warily. "Evening," he replied. She smiled. "I know things are hard for you now," she began. "You will soon lose this stand, but I can help you." She reached out and touched his arm. "I hear that a big man from Lagos likes me. I can ask him to save your stand if you do something for me." Obinna raised an eyebrow. "What do you want me to do?" Ifeoma leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Stop talking to that tailor girl. She is beneath you. If you distance yourself from her, I will speak to my father. He is friends with the chief. Maybe they will leave your stand." Obinna almost laughed, but his face stayed calm. "So you want me to abandon my friend for your father's favor?" "She is not your friend," Ifeoma hissed. "She is a poor girl who only wants your attention because you are handsome. When you have nothing, she will leave you." Obinna shook his head. Go home, Ifioma. Your clothes are too clean for my yam fire. Ifioma's face flushed with anger. You will regret this, she snapped. She turned and walked away quickly, her heels clicking sharply. Meanwhile, Nneka's life was getting harder. Customers stopped coming because they were afraid the shops would be demolished. Mama Ugo grew weaker. She coughed at night and couldn't sleep. Maybe we should move, she whispered one night. Maybe we should go to my sister's place in the next village. No, Nneka said firmly. This is our home. We will find a way. The next day, as Obinna was placing yams on the grill, two men in dark clothes approached him. They stood behind him quietly until he felt their presence. He turned and saw their cold eyes. Can I help you? He asked. One of the men smiled without warmth. We heard you like to talk to chiefs, he said. His voice was mocking. I speak when I must, Obinna answered. The second man stepped closer. Our boss does not like men who speak too much. He sent us to remind you to mind your own business. Without warning, he hit Obinna hard on the side of the head. Obinna stumbled but caught himself on the table. The hot grill almost fell. Stop! Nneka yelled from her mother's shop. She ran toward them. Leave him. The first man laughed. He reached for Obinna again, but Obinna moved quickly. He caught the man's wrist and twisted it. The man cried out. Obinna's eyes flashed with anger. He wanted to fight, but he stopped himself. Instead, he shoved the man away and stood back. You have given your message, he said quietly. Now leave. The two men glared at him and then spat on the ground. Remember our faces, one of them said. We will come back. They walked away, shoulder to shoulder. Nneka rushed to Obinna. Are you all right? She asked, tears in her eyes. I am fine, he said, rubbing the side of his head. He looked at her and smiled slightly. They hit me harder in the city. Nneka shook her head. You should not joke, she whispered. They are dangerous. Obinna looked at the direction the men had gone. I know who sent them, he said quietly. My uncle. He is close to the chief. He knows I am here now. Nneka's eyes widened. Uncle! Obinna took a deep breath. He had not planned to reveal anything, but he felt he owed her the truth. My uncle is Chief Anayo, he said. He is trying to steal my company. I came here to hide and see how people live when they have nothing. He wants me to go back so he can control me or silence me. Nneka stared at him, her mouth slightly open. Your company? She repeated, confused. I do not understand. I cannot tell you everything now, Obinna said. It is dangerous, but I promise you I am not just a yam seller. Nneka looked into his eyes. She saw pain, fear, and determination. She realized he was carrying a heavy secret. She nodded slowly. I believe you, she said softly. But what will you do? The chief is selling the land. Your uncle is sending men after you. How can you fight them alone? Obinna smiled sadly. I am not alone, he said. I have you, and soon I will have my lawyers and my company. I will protect you and your mother. But you must be careful. Do not trust anyone who comes with offers. They may hurt you to get to me. Nneka nodded again, feeling a mix of fear and hope. She had never imagined that the quiet yam seller was hiding from powerful people. She suddenly felt protective of him. I will be careful, she promised, and I will not let anyone hurt you. That night, Obinna sat with his back against the wall of his room. He thought about his uncle's greed and the chief's plan. He felt anger burn inside him. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer again. I cannot wait any longer, he said. Bring the documents. Bring everything. We will stop them. Are you sure? The lawyer asked. If you reveal yourself, the whole world will know you are alive. Your uncle will come for you openly. Obinna closed his eyes and pictured Mama Ugo's sewing machine and Nneka's face. He thought about the mocking laughter of Ifioma and the arrogance of the chief. He heard his mother's gentle voice from his memories. Do what is right, it whispered. Yes, Obinna said firmly. I am ready. Prepare everything. I will send you the location. We will meet in Umuagu. Bring security. Bring the press if you can. Let the world see. As he hung up, he looked at the picture of his mother again. Tomorrow, Mama, he whispered. Tomorrow they will know who your son is. Outside, the village slowly fell into darkness. People slept, unaware of the storm that was about to break. Nneka sat by her mother's bed, watching her breathe. She thought about Obinna's secret and the danger around them. She felt fear, but she also felt a fierce determination. She would stand by him. She would not let evil men destroy their home. The next morning, the sky was bright but heavy with the promise of rain. Chickens clucked loudly, goats bleated, and the voices of traders filled the air. Children ran between stalls, chasing each other with sticks. Yet there was an undertone of tension. Everyone knew the chief's men would come soon to enforce the 7-day deadline. Each trader looked at their goods and wondered if this was the last day they would sell there. Obinna set up his stand early. He placed his yams carefully, focusing on each movement. He knew this might be the last day he pretended to be just a yam seller. Naneka arrived with a basket of cloth, but she kept looking over her shoulder, expecting trouble. Mama Ugo sat outside her shop, her hands trembling slightly. She whispered prayers under her breath. Around midday, Chief Okari marched into the motor park with a group of strong men and police officers. They carried sticks and wore scowls on their faces. The chief's agbada rustled as he walked. He looked around like a king surveying his land. Behind him were the men from Lagos, including one with a camera, ready to film the clearing for promotion. "Time is up," Chief Okari shouted. "Everybody pack your things. Leave now. This place belongs to the company." He clapped his hands twice. The men with him spread out, pushing people away from their stalls, throwing goods into the dirt, tearing down makeshift roofs. A woman selling tomatoes cried out as a man kicked her basket. Red tomatoes rolled on the dusty ground. Children screamed and scattered. A shoe vendor begged, "Please, let me take my shoes. That is all I have." A man pushed him aside and grabbed the shoes. Obinna watched, his jaw tight. He saw fear on faces that had once smiled freely. He heard the muffled sobs of traders, who had no other way to feed their families. His blood boiled, but he held himself back. He knew what was coming. The chief reached Obinna's yam stand. He smiled cruelly. "Start with this one," he ordered. "He likes to talk too much." 2 men stepped forward. One grabbed the table, and the other reached for the yams. Naneka cried out and ran forward. She stood in front of the stand, arms outstretched. "No," she shouted. "You cannot do this. This is his only livelihood. You are destroying our lives," the chief sneered. "Move aside, you foolish girl," he snapped, "or I will have you dragged away." Naneka stood firm. "I will not move," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "This land does not belong to you alone. It belongs to all of us. We have worked here for years. You cannot throw us out without a fight." The chief nodded to his men. One of them grabbed Aneka's arm roughly. She screamed and tried to pull away. Mama Ugo cried out from her shop, "Leave my child alone." As the man pulled Naneka, Obinna stepped forward. He placed a hand on the man's wrist. "Let her go," he said quietly. The man laughed. "Who will make me?" he asked. Obinna's eyes narrowed. "I will." His voice was low, but there was power in it. It was the voice of someone who was no longer hiding. The chief scoffed. "You? You are nothing but a yam seller. Remove him too." At that moment, the sound of engines filled the air. People turned to look. A convoy of black cars drove into the motor park. The cars were shiny with tinted windows. They stopped in a neat line. Doors opened, and men in suits stepped out. They moved with purpose and authority. One of them held a thick folder. Another held a microphone. Behind them, a few journalists with cameras hurriedly set up. Chief Okari frowned and took a step back. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, looking around nervously. The man with the folder walked forward. He wore glasses and a well-fitted suit. He approached Obinna and bowed slightly. "Good afternoon, Mr. Obinna Ez," he said formally. "We have brought the documents you requested." A murmur rippled through the crowd. People looked at Obinna, then at the man, confusion on their faces. Afioma, standing nearby with her arms crossed, blinked unsure. "Mr. Obinna Eze?" she repeated quietly. Obinna lifted his chin. He reached up and untied his old apron. He folded it carefully and placed it on the table. He then stepped around his yam stand and faced the crowd. His posture changed. He no longer looked like a humble yam seller. He looked like a man used to commanding rooms full of important people. "My name is Obinna Eze," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I am the owner of Ez Global Holdings." Gasps echoed through the market. People stared, mouths open. Neka looked at him with wide eyes. Mama Ugo covered her mouth in shock. Ifeoma's face drained of color. She stepped back, stumbling slightly. Chief Okri's face twisted with disbelief. "Impossible," he barked. "You are a liar. You are a common food seller. This is a trick." Obinna turned to the lawyer. "Show him the papers," he ordered. The lawyer opened the folder and took out several official documents. He handed them to the chief. "These are deeds of ownership," the lawyer announced. "Mr. Eze purchased the company that was set to buy this land. He also owns controlling shares in the bank holding your debts, Chief Okri. Furthermore, he has evidence that the sale of this land was illegal under state law. We have here the order to halt all demolition until investigations are complete." The chief's hands shook as he looked at the papers. He could not read the big words, but he recognized the seals and signatures. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. He looked around, hoping for support, but the villagers were watching with growing anger. They had been humiliated and pushed around, and now they learned the chief had sold their land in secret. Obinna continued, his voice steady. "You wanted to throw us out without mercy. You thought we were powerless, but today, the yam seller speaks like a man who knows his rights. You do not own this land. You have no authority to destroy our shops. And if you try to harm anyone here again, you will answer to the law." The police officers looked uncertain. They glanced at each other. Some stepped back. The men from Lagos whispered among themselves, now afraid. The journalists captured everything, their cameras clicking, their microphones recording each word. Chief Okri tried to regain control. "I was only doing what was best for the village," he said lamely. "This resort would bring money. Money for you and your friends," Obinna interrupted. "Not for the traders. Not for the widows and children. You planned to enrich yourself and leave everyone else to suffer. You are a thief of dreams." The villagers murmured in agreement. Someone shouted, "We trusted you." Another cried, "You betrayed us." Seeing his power slipping away, the chief turned to Ifeoma's father, who was standing nearby. "You said the company would pay me," he whispered harshly. Ifeoma's father stepped back. He raised his hands in denial. "I knew nothing of this," he lied quickly. "I thought it was a fair deal." Obinna's lawyer spoke again. "We have also brought evidence that Chief Anayo, Mr. Eze's uncle, was involved in this illegal sale. His men have been harassing Mr. Eze. They will be handed over to the authorities for questioning." He nodded to the security team. They moved swiftly and grabbed 2 men in the crowd. They were the same men who had attacked Obinna earlier. They struggled, but the security men held them firmly. The tension in the air shifted. Fear changed to hope. Anger turned into empowerment. Traders picked up their goods and returned them to their stalls. Women wiped tears from their faces and smiled. Children clapped without fully understanding, but sensing relief. Mama Yugo stood up straighter. Her eyes shone with pride. She looked at Obinna as if seeing him for the first time. Naneka stepped forward slowly. She stared at Obinna. You are really?" she whispered. Obinna nodded. "Yes," he said softly. "I told you I was not just a yam seller." Nika's heart pounded. She felt a mixture of awe, confusion, and hurt. He had trusted her with his secret only partly. He had hidden so much. She wanted to run to him and thank him. But she also wanted to ask why he had not told her everything sooner. She did not move. Ifeoma, on the other hand, saw everything as a new opportunity. She pushed through the crowd and walked up to Obinna. She arranged her face into a soft, apologetic expression. "Obinna, Mr. Ez," she corrected quickly. "I am so sorry, I did not know. Please forgive me for my foolish words. I always respected you. I only teased you because I was shy." Obinna looked at her without emotion. He remembered all the times she had mocked him, called him names, and offered him deals to betray Naneka. He shook his head slowly. "You said you would rather marry hunger than marry me," he said. His voice was calm, but his words were cutting. "Now you want to marry fortune. But my heart is not for sale." Elma's face went red. Her eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth to speak again, but Obinna turned away. He looked at the villagers. "Today we stop the demolition," he said. "But the fight is not over. We must rebuild our market legally. We must hold those who betrayed us accountable. We must protect each other." The crowd cheered loudly. People moved closer to Obinna, wanting to thank him, to touch his hands, to see the man who had saved them. Cameras clicked, voices rose. The chief, seeing his power broken, slipped away silently, his red cap bent like his pride. But amid the noise and celebration, Obinna looked for one face. He searched for Nneka. He saw her standing near the tailor shop, arms crossed, eyes downcast. He made his way through the crowd and stopped in front of her. "Nneka," he said gently. She looked up slowly. Her eyes were wet. "You saved us," she said. Her voice was flat. "You saved my mother's shop. Thank you." Obinna could hear the distance in her voice. "Can we talk?" he asked. "I want to explain." "There is nothing to explain," she replied, her tone cool. "I helped a yam seller. You are the richest man in the world. They are not the same person. I need time to understand this." She turned and walked into the shop. Obinna watched her go, feeling a deep ache. He had revealed his identity to save the villagers, but he had not considered that it might cost him the trust of the one person whose opinion mattered to him. He stood there, surrounded by cheers and gratitude, feeling strangely alone. After the dramatic reveal in the motor park, the news spread like fire in dry grass. By evening, everyone in Umuagu knew that the humble yam seller was actually Obinna Ez, a man whose wealth and power reached far beyond their village. Radios blared with the story. Small groups formed around fires to discuss what they had witnessed. Some people felt pride that such a powerful man had chosen their village to hide in. Others felt shame for how they had treated him. In many homes, children listened wide as their parents retold the story over and over. Obinna's small rented room could no longer protect him from curious eyes. So he moved to a guarded compound on the edge of the village. It belonged to his company, though no one had known before. Men in suits and with earphones now stood near his gate, watching for any threat. They wore dark glasses and talked quietly into their wrists. Some villagers peered from a distance, whispering. Inside, Obinna paced the living room. He felt restless. After years of hiding, he had stepped back into the light. It was necessary, but it had consequences. He couldn't go back to roasting yam and blending pepper with his own hands. People now bowed and called him Sir again. They brought him food he did not ask for and addressed him with formal titles. It all felt heavy and cold. He missed the freedom of anonymity, but he knew that season was over. He kept thinking about Nneka. He saw her face when she said, "I helped a yam seller. You are the richest man in the world." He could hear the hurt in her voice. He had not lied to her, but he had hidden most of the truth. He had thought he was protecting her, but now he wondered if he had only protected his own secret at the cost of her trust. He decided he needed to talk to her again, to explain more, but he did not know if she would listen. Meanwhile, Chief Anayo was furious. The news of Obinna's reveal had reached him through a frantic call from one of his men before they were caught. He ruined everything, Anayo snapped. Pacing in his mansion in the city, he exposed the land deal. He embarrassed the chief. Now the authorities will investigate. We have to silence him before he goes further. He sent 2 of his most trusted men to Umuagu. "Find him," he ordered. "Find that tailor girl too. They will lead us to him. Do not return empty-handed." The 2 men arrived at the village at night. They wore plain clothes and mingled with the shadows. They waited outside the tailoring shop until they saw lights go out. They heard Mama Ugo's cough from inside. They peeped through the small window and saw Nneka folding cloth. They whispered to each other, then moved quietly to the back door. They intended to break in and wait for Nneka to come in the morning so they could snatch her and lure Obinna out. Inside the shop, Nneka sat by her mother's side, sewing a dress by the light of a lantern. Her mother's chest rose and fell heavily. The cough had worsened after the stressful week. She looked at Nneka and whispered, "My child, I heard what happened today. I heard Obinna is very rich." Nneka nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "Yes, Mama. He helped us," Mama Ugo said, her voice weak. "He saved our shop." "I know," Nneka said softly. "But he lied by silence. He did not trust me enough to tell me who he really was." Mama Ugo sighed. "Sometimes men keep secrets to protect those they love. Sometimes secrets create walls instead of safety. You must decide if his secret was out of fear or arrogance." Before Nneka could answer, she heard a faint creaking sound. She looked toward the back door. The latch moved slowly. Her heart raced. Without thinking, she blew out the lantern. Darkness swallowed the room. She grabbed a heavy piece of wood and stood quietly, listening. She heard footsteps outside and low whispers. Her mother coughed again. Nanika put a finger to her lips in the dark, though her mother couldn't see. She prayed. The door opened slowly. Moonlight from outside cast a thin sliver of light on the floor. Two shadows slipped inside. They whispered to each other. Naneka held her breath. She pressed herself against the wall. The wood raised. As one man reached toward the table, his hand brushed against a metal plate. It fell with a clang. The noise startled them. "Who's there?" one whispered harshly. In that moment, Naneka swung the wood. It hit the man's shoulder with a loud crack. He cried out. The other man lunged toward the sound. Naneka swung again, but he caught her wrist. She screamed loudly, hoping someone would hear. The man slapped his hand over her mouth. "Quiet!" he hissed. He dragged her toward the door. Outside, a security guard from Obina's compound was patrolling. He heard the faint scream. He ran toward the tailoring shop. He saw two men struggling with a woman at the back door. He pulled out his torch and flashed it. "Hey!" he shouted. "What are you doing?" The men cursed. They dropped Naneka and ran. The guard chased them for a few meters, but they disappeared into the dark alleys. He returned to the shop panting. He helped Naneka to her feet. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said, shaking. "They were trying to kidnap me." "It's not safe here," the guard said. "You must come with me, mister. Ease will protect you." "I don't want his protection," she said stubbornly, but she looked at her mother, who was coughing again. "I have to take care of Mama." The guard nodded. "We can move both of you to the compound. It is safer there. The men will not dare enter. Please come. It is the only way." Naneka hesitated. She didn't want to seem weak or dependent, but she looked at her mother's frail body and knew she couldn't fight alone. She nodded. "Okay." The guard quickly called for help. They carried Mama Yugo on a makeshift stretcher to Obina's compound. Naneka followed, holding her mother's hand. Tears rolled down her cheeks silently. She felt angry at the men who had tried to take her, angry at the situation, and still confused about Obina. At the compound, Obina came out as soon as he heard. He wore simple clothes, but his presence seemed stronger, now that he was no longer hiding. He saw Naneka and rushed to her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with worry. Naneka looked at him, her eyes flashing. "Your uncle sent men to kidnap me," she said bluntly. "Do you see what your secrets bring?" Obina's face darkened. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not want anyone to get hurt. I will make sure you are safe now." He turned to the guards. "Double the patrols. Make sure no one enters without my permission." He led Naneka and Mama Ugo inside. The compound had a clean guest room. They laid Mama Ugo on a bed. A doctor arrived and checked her breathing. "She needs rest," the doctor said. "The cough is from stress. She must be calm." Obina sat with them, but Naneka avoided his eyes. He tried to explain. "Naneka, I hid because I was betrayed before. My uncle tried to kill me. I thought if I told you, you might be in danger. I wanted to protect you." "You did not trust me," she responded quietly. "Trust is not given by telling half of the truth. You asked me to trust you, but you did not trust me enough to tell me who you were. Now danger has come anyway." Obina felt her words like arrows. He didn't know how to answer. He sat with his head bowed. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I will earn your trust if you allow me. I will always be honest from now on." Naneka looked at him and saw genuine regret in his eyes. She softened a little, but she was still hurt. "We will see," she said simply. As the night grew late, Obina stepped out to make phone calls. He ordered more security around the village. He called the police and demanded an investigation. He told his men to find his uncle's people and stop them. He thought about the next day. He needed to expose his uncle fully. He needed to hold the chief accountable. He needed to rebuild the market. But most of all, he needed to repair his relationship with the one person who had seen him for who he was behind the money. Naneka. Inside, Naneka sat by her mother's bed, listening to her steady breathing. She thought about Obina's words. She remembered how he had stood in front of her to stop the chief's men. She recalled his kindness when he gave her yam without asking for money. She remembered his gentle smiles when they talked. She knew he was not a bad man. He had just been scared, but she also knew that secrets had consequences. She would not forget that easily. She closed her eyes and whispered a short prayer. God, guide me. Help me know what is right. Help Obinna protect us. Help me find peace. She opened her eyes and wiped a tear. She held her mother's hand and waited for morning. Morning light filtered through the curtains of the guest room in Obinna's compound. Birds chirped outside, and distant voices of villagers preparing for the day filled the air. Naneka woke up, still feeling the weight of the night's events. She gently squeezed her mother's hand. Mama Ugo was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. Neka sighed in relief. At least her mother was safe here. She stood up quietly and stretched. Her muscles were stiff. She walked toward the window and looked outside. The compound was surrounded by a high fence. Guards patrolled back and forth. It felt safe but also like a cage. She missed the open space of the market, even with its dust and noise. She missed the familiarity of her small shop. A soft knock on the door made her turn. Obinna entered, carrying a tray with cups of tea and bread. He wore a simple shirt and trousers. His eyes looked tired but kind. He offered a small smile. "I brought breakfast," he said. Naneka accepted the tray. "Thank you," she said softly. She placed the tray on the table and poured tea for her mother and herself. She woke Mama Ugo gently. Mama Ugo opened her eyes and smiled when she saw Naneka. "Good morning, my child," she whispered. "Morning, Mama," Naneka replied. She helped her mother sit up and gave her some tea. Obinna watched them quietly. He felt warmth seeing them together. He missed his own mother every day. He cleared his throat. "I have to go out today," he said. "The villagers are meeting at the market. We need to plan how to rebuild, and how to stop the chief from using other tricks. I want you to stay here where it is safe." Neka nodded. "We will stay," she said, "but you must be careful. Your uncle will not stop." "I know," Obinna said. "I have already contacted the police and lawyers. They are on their way. I will expose everything. But there is something else I need to do." He hesitated. Neka looked at him questioningly. "What is that?" she asked. Obinna took a deep breath. "Ifeoma came to me after the reveal, pretending to apologize," he said. "But I know she is planning something. Her father and the chief were partners in the land deal. I need to confront them. I cannot allow them to create another problem." Naneka frowned. "Be careful with Ifeoma," she warned. "She acts sweet when she wants something." Obinna nodded. "I know. I won't let her fool me again." Later in the morning, Obinna went to the motor park. People gathered around him. They smiled and thanked him. They told him stories of how the land deal would have destroyed their lives. He listened patiently. He assured them he would help rebuild their stalls better than before. He announced that his company would fund the construction of proper stalls with roofs, water supply, and lights. The crowd cheered. He then called a meeting of the traders. They sat under the big tree in the square. Obinna stood before them. "We will form a committee," he said. "This committee will ensure every trader gets a place in the new market. No one will be pushed aside. We will work together." He asked for volunteers. Several people raised their hands, including old Mrs. Amina, who sold smoked fish, and young Musa, who repaired bicycles. They agreed to work with Obinna's team and the village council. The atmosphere shifted from fear to hope. After the meeting, Obinna sought out Ifeoma and her father. They were standing near their house, whispering. Obinna approached calmly. Ifeoma smiled quickly. "Good morning, Mr. Ease," she said sweetly. "How can I help you?" Obinna didn't return the smile. "I came to talk," he said, his tone polite but firm. He looked at her father. "You were part of the plan to sell our land," he stated. Ifeoma's father shifted uncomfortably. No, he protested. I only wanted the best for the village. The resort would have made you rich." Obinna cut in. "You didn't care about the people. You only cared about yourself." Ifeoma stepped closer. "Obinna," she said softly, just trying to use his name like a weapon. "You know I didn't mean the things I said. I was young and foolish. You are still foolish," Obinna said without anger. "Because you think you can change my mind with fake apologies. I want nothing from you. I will work with those who stood with us when we were weak. I will not make deals with those who mocked us." Ifeoma's face turned red. "You think she stood with you?" she snapped, pointing in the direction of the tailor shop. She only liked you because you were handsome. Wait until she sees the world you live in. She will change. Obinna shook his head. Naneka cared when she thought I had nothing, he said quietly. She shared her meal when she had none. She protected me at her own risk. You cannot understand that kind of heart because you have never had to fight for anyone but yourself. Ifeoma's father sighed. He knew he was losing. What do you want from us? He asked. Do you want money? An apology? We can negotiate. There is no negotiation with injustice, Obinna replied. If you truly want to help, then confess your role in the land deal to the authorities. Return any money you took. Step down from any committee. Stay away from decisions that affect the poor. That is the only way you can start to make things right. Ifeoma's father looked offended. You cannot tell me what to do, he said. I can and I will, Obinna said calmly, because I own the land and the company you tried to use against us. If you do not confess, I will ensure the law deals with you. The choice is yours. They stared at each other for a moment. Then Obinna turned and walked away. Ifeoma's father watched him go, fear replacing anger. He knew that the only way to save himself was to cooperate. Back at the compound, Naneka sat with her mother on the porch. The weather was pleasant. They could see the gate and the guards walking around. It felt strange to sit in such a place, far removed from the dusty market. Mama Yugo looked at Naneka. You care about him, she said quietly. Naneka looked down. I do, she admitted. But I am afraid. I don't know if I fit in his world. I sew clothes. He runs companies. He travels and meets important people. I have never even left this village. Mama Ugo smiled weakly. Love is not about matching bank accounts or visiting big cities, she said. Love is about hearts that beat at the same rhythm. It is about kindness, respect, and truth. Money can build houses but cannot build love. Do not push him away because he is rich. Push him away only if he is unkind or untruthful. Naneka thought about her mother's words. She remembered Obinna, standing between her and the chief's men. She remembered him carrying her mother into his home. She remembered his tears when she confronted him. He was not unkind. He had lied by omission, but he regretted it. She felt her anger soften a little more. That evening, Obinna returned. He looked tired but determined. He sat on the porch with Naneka and Mama Ugo. He reported everything that had happened at the market. He told them about confronting Ifeoma and her father. He told them about forming the committee. He told them about the new plans to build stalls. Naneka listened quietly. Finally, she spoke. You are doing good things, she said softly. I can see that. But what about your uncle? He will not stop. He has already sent men after us. He will send more. Obinna nodded. Tomorrow, I will expose him fully, he said. I will call a press conference. I will show the proof of his crimes. I will ask the police to arrest him. He has no power over me anymore. After that, he will not dare to come near us. And if he does? Naneka asked. Obinna looked into her eyes. Then I will stand between him and you, he said firmly. I will protect you with everything I have. You and your mother. I promise. Naneka searched his face. She saw sincerity. She saw fear, but she also saw resolve. She nodded slowly. We will trust you, she said. But do not hide things from me again. If we are to be friends, or anything more, you must tell me the truth. Obinna smiled faintly. I will, he said. No more secrets. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the three of them sat together. They ate simple food and talked about ordinary things. How to stitch a torn seam, how to choose the best yams, how to plant cassava. It felt peaceful and normal. For a moment, they forgot the wealth and danger outside the gate. They were just three people sharing a meal and a moment of quiet happiness. The next day dawned clear and warm. The village buzzed with anticipation. Rumors had spread that there would be a big announcement. Some people said the police would arrest the chief. Others said Obinna was going to give everyone money. Children ran around, pretending to be security guards. Traders organized their goods neatly, proud that they could sell without fear for the first time in days. In the morning, Obinna dressed in a neat but simple traditional outfit. It was not as extravagant as what his status could demand, but it showed respect for the occasion. He met with his legal team in the living room. They reviewed documents, photos, and recordings. They planned their statements carefully. They wanted to leave no room for doubt. At the motor park, a temporary stage had been set up near the big tree. A white cloth served as a backdrop. Chairs were arranged in rows. People arrived early to get a good view. Journalists set up cameras and microphones. They tested sound levels and adjusted lenses. Police officers stood near the stage, checking for any suspicious activity. The whole scene looked like a grand festival, except that seriousness hung in the air. Obinna arrived with his security team and legal advisors. He walked toward the stage, nodding to people and shaking hands. He saw many faces, some familiar, some new. He saw the tomato woman who had cried when her basket was kicked. He saw the shoe seller who had begged. He saw Musa the bicycle repairer. He saw Mrs. Amina. He saw children waving at him. He smiled at them. He saw Naneka standing at the back with her mother, watching quietly. He met her eyes briefly. She nodded, giving him silent encouragement. He felt strength in that small gesture. He climbed the stage and took the microphone. Murmurs quieted. All eyes were on him. He took a moment before he spoke. He looked at the faces before him. Faces of people who had laughed at him, insulted him, ignored him, and those who had stood by him when he was just a yam seller. He inhaled deeply. "My people," he began, his voice clear and steady. "You all know me as the yam seller. Some of you laughed at me. Some of you ignored me. A few of you showed me kindness even when you thought I was poor. Today you know my name. I am Obinna Eze. I am the owner of Eze Global Holdings. But more importantly, I am a son of Umwagu." People nodded and murmured. They felt pride when he said he belonged to them. "I did not hide because I was ashamed of my wealth," he continued. "I hid because my uncle, Chief Aneo, tried to steal everything from me after my parents died. He lied, cheated, and even tried to have me killed. I escaped and came here, where my grandmother once sold food. I wanted to see how ordinary people live. I wanted to know if they are treated with respect or contempt. I saw that many people suffer quietly. I saw that those with power and money often trample the weak. I saw that greed drives decisions, not justice." He paused and let his words sink in. He saw people nodding. "Last week, you all saw how the chief and his partners tried to steal our land. They planned to build a resort and make themselves rich. They did not care that you would lose your shops. They did not care that your children would go hungry. They did not ask for your opinions. They marked your walls with red paint. They kicked your tomatoes and shoes. They mocked your poverty." Murmurs of anger rose. People looked at Chief Okri, who sat with a frown, surrounded by police. He tried to appear calm, but his hands trembled. "Today, I will show you proof of their crimes," Obinna said. He nodded to his lawyer. The lawyer stepped forward with a small projector. He connected it to a generator. A white sheet was hung as a screen. On it, a recording began to play. It showed Chief Okri and Ifeoma's father in a dark room, counting money. They talked about how they would get more once the land was sold. They laughed about fooling the villagers. People gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others whispered angrily. The recording continued. It showed Chief Anayo on a video call, telling the chief to hurry and clear the land. He promised to send men if anyone resisted. His voice was clear. The date and time were visible on the video. He did not know he was being recorded. People looked at one another, eyes wide. This was undeniable proof. When the video ended, Obinna spoke again. "You have seen with your own eyes. This was the plan. It was not for your benefit. They did not care about us. They cared only for themselves." The police officer in charge stepped forward. He held up a document. "Based on this evidence, we are placing Chief Okari under arrest," he announced. "He will be taken to the city for questioning. Ifeoma's father and any other conspirators will also be investigated. No one is above the law." Policemen moved toward the chief. They took his arm. He resisted at first. "This is injustice," he cried. "I was protecting the village." But the crowd shouted, "Liar, thief, betrayer." They threw insults and clods of dirt at him. He was quickly escorted away. Ifeoma's father ran home, fear on his face. People chased him with shouts. He surrendered to the police at the station to escape the mob. Obinna continued. "I am also filing charges against my uncle," he said. "He will be called to court." He will answer for his crimes. He sent men to harm me. He sent men to kidnap my friend. He will not go unpunished. He then took a deep breath and changed his tone. But today is not only about punishment, he said. It is also about rebuilding. I told you yesterday that we would build a new market. Today, I announce that my company will provide the materials and money. We will build strong stalls with roofs to keep you dry when it rains. We will dig a well so that you have clean water. We will install lights so you can sell at night if you need to. You will pay fair rent, not bribes. The committee will manage everything with transparency. You will decide who sits where. No one will be left out. This is our home. We will make it better together. The crowd erupted in cheers. Women ululated, men clapped, and children jumped up and down. Some people cried openly, overwhelmed by hope. They came forward and hugged Obinna, thanking him over and over. He smiled and hugged them back. He felt joy swell inside him. He had done something good. When the crowd quieted, he spoke again. There is one more thing, he said. We have all learned a lesson. Do not judge people by their clothes or jobs. Do not mock the poor. Today you laughed with me. Last week, some of you laughed at me. Today I am rich. Yesterday you thought I was poor. But I am the same man. My heart did not change because of money. Please remember this. Kindness costs nothing. It may save you one day. He stepped down from the stage. People moved around him, embracing him. A path cleared as he walked toward Naneka. She stood beside her mother, watching everything. Her eyes were softer today. She smiled a little when he came near. You did it, she said. Her voice was filled with warmth and admiration. We did it, he corrected gently. You stood up to the chief. You defended me. You brought me here when I was hurt. I could not have done this alone. Neka's cheeks flushed. I only did what was right, she said. And that is why you are special, Obinna replied. They walked back together toward the tailor shop. People called out blessings as they passed. God bless you, Obinna. God bless you, Naneka. They smiled and waved. Obinna's heart felt light. He looked at Naneka and saw the girl who had fed him when she had nothing. He felt gratitude and something more, something tender. That evening, after the excitement had calmed, they returned to the compound. They were tired but content. Neka sat with her mother, and Obinna sat nearby. The night air was cool. They talked about the future, the new market, the committee, the arrests. They laughed at small things. Obinna's legal team prepared to leave, but Obinna asked some of them to stay until his uncle was truly behind bars. As they talked, Obinna's phone buzzed. It was a message from his lawyer. Chief Anio has fled. He is trying to cross the border. Obinna's smile faded. He stood and walked away from the porch to make a call. He instructed his security team to work with the police and border patrol. We cannot let him escape, he said. He must answer for what he has done. He returned to the porch. He sat down with a sigh. Neka looked at him. What is wrong? She asked. My uncle is running, he said quietly. He is trying to escape. It will not be easy to catch him, but we must. If he gets away, he might come back with more trouble. Naneka's brows furrowed. We will catch him, she said firmly. You have us. You have the law. He will not get away with this. Obinna smiled. You are right, he said. We will not let him win. They fell into a comfortable silence. The night was calm. Crickets chirped. In the distance, they could hear drums. Someone celebrating. The world felt balanced for a moment. Obinna looked at Naneka. He wanted to say something more, but he wasn't sure if it was the right time. He decided to wait. He wanted to make sure his words were supported by actions. The days that followed were busy and filled with mixed emotions. The new market construction began. Men and women from the village worked side by side with workers hired by Obinna's company. They poured concrete, laid bricks, and raised wooden frames. They laughed, sang, and told stories as they worked. They felt proud to build something that belonged to them. Children carried small buckets of sand and felt important. Obinna was everywhere, checking on progress, solving problems, meeting with engineers, and listening to traders' suggestions. He stayed in the village. He ate simple food with the workers and sometimes even carried blocks himself. He refused fancy chairs and insisted on sitting on the ground with everyone else. This humility endeared him even more to the people. He also kept a close watch on the police investigation. The chief had been taken to the city, and he was cooperating to reduce his sentence. He confessed everything. He admitted that Chief Anayo had offered him large sums of money. He named everyone involved, including Ifeoma's father. He also confessed to other illegal deals he had done in the past. The people of Umuagu were shocked but also relieved. They felt justice was finally working. Every day, Obina's lawyer gave him updates. "We believe he is still in the country. He cannot cross the border easily because his passport is flagged. We have alerted Interpol. We will catch him." Obina nodded. "We must," he said. "If he escapes, he will never stop plotting." Despite his busy schedule, Obina kept thinking about Nneka. He sought opportunities to talk to her. Not about the market or the investigation, but about simple things. He asked her about her childhood. He listened to her stories about sewing with her mother. He asked her what dreams she had beyond the village. Sometimes she was quiet, still processing everything. Sometimes she opened up and talked. He treasured those moments. But he noticed that Nneka remained cautious. She laughed with him. But there was still a barrier. She didn't touch his arm or lean into him, like she once did when she believed he was a yam seller. She kept a polite distance. He respected that. He knew he had to earn her trust slowly. One afternoon, as the new stalls took shape, Ifeoma approached Obina again. This time, she looked humbled. Her clothes were still beautiful, but her eyes were less proud. Her father had been arrested and was facing charges. Her mother was distressed, and their wealth was at risk. She walked toward Obina hesitantly. "Obina," she said softly, "I know you don't want to see me, but I came to say thank you. You could have destroyed us, but you did not." Obina looked at her. He could see the fear in her eyes. "It is not my job to destroy," he said. "The law will handle your father. I hope you learn something from this. I hope you learn to treat people with respect, no matter how poor they look." Ifeoma nodded. "I have learned," she said quietly. She looked down, ashamed. "I also came to ask for help. My family is struggling. Is there anything you can do?" Obina thought for a moment. He wanted justice, but he also believed in mercy. He turned to his lawyer. "We can help with legal counsel," he said. "We can make sure your father has fair representation. But we cannot remove the charges. He must face what he did. As for you, Ifeoma, you are young. You can start again, work, learn, help your mother. This will not be easy, but it is better than escaping responsibility." Tears formed in Ifeoma's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. She turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped. For the first time in her life, she understood humility. As Obina watched her go, he felt a small tug of sympathy. He realized that everyone deserved a chance to change. He hoped she would. That evening, Nneka and Obina sat outside her mother's shop, watching the sunset. The sky was painted with orange and purple hues. It was peaceful. The new stalls in the market stood like silhouettes against the glowing horizon. It was a beautiful scene. "Nneka," Obina said softly, "do you remember the first day we spoke?" Nneka smiled. "Yes," she said. "You gave me yam without asking for money. And you said you would pay me when life became kind," he reminded her. She laughed gently. "I think life is becoming kind now," she said. "Not just because of money, but because people are changing. They are learning. They are working together. It feels different." "It does," Obina agreed. He looked at her, his eyes serious. "And what about us? Are we changing too?" Nneka turned her face away slightly. She stared at the sky. "I don't know," she said honestly. "My feelings are like this sunset. Beautiful but fading quickly. Sometimes I feel close to you. Sometimes I remember the secrets and feel distant. I want to trust you fully, but I am afraid." "I understand," Obina said softly. "I hurt you by not telling you who I was. I cannot change the past. I can only change what I do now and in the future. I want to be honest with you, always. I want to be more than just someone who saved your shop. I want to be your friend, maybe even more if you will let me. But I will wait as long as you need." Nneka looked at him. She saw sincerity. She saw vulnerability. She saw the boy who had roasted yams with his bare hands, and the man who had built markets with his wealth. She saw both and realized they were the same person. Her heart softened even more. "I believe you," she said quietly. I believe you want to be good. I believe you are good. And I think we can try to be more than friends. But you must promise me something." "Anything," Obinna said quickly. "Promise me that no matter what happens, whether we succeed or fail, you will never hide who you are again," she said. "Not from me, not from yourself," Obinna smiled. "I promise," he said. "I will be myself always, rich or poor, strong or weak. I will not pretend. And I promise to listen when you speak, to respect your opinions, and to stand with you." Neka nodded. "Then let us see where this road leads," she said. "But do not rush. Let it be slow, like the river that runs behind the village. It carves its path patiently and beautifully." Obinna laughed softly. "Slow and steady," he agreed. They sat in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon, leaving a trail of golden light. It felt like the end of a chapter and the beginning of a new one. Later, as night fell, Obinna received a call. It was his lawyer again. "We have him," the lawyer said. "Your uncle was caught at the border. He tried to bribe the guards, but they recognized him. He is being brought back under heavy security." Relief washed over Obinna. "Thank you," he said. He turned to Neka. "Caught my uncle," he said quietly. Neka's eyes widened. "That is good," she said. She could see the tension leaving his shoulders. "You can finally rest." "Yes," Obinna said. "Maybe now we can truly move forward." He looked up at the night sky. Stars sparkled like tiny lamps. He thought of his parents, his grandmother, and his mother's words. He thought of the journey he had taken. From boardrooms to yam stalls, from hiding to revealing, from fear to courage. He felt grateful. He looked at Naneka, sitting beside him, her face lit by the soft glow of a lantern. He felt hope. A week later, the new market was completed. It stood proudly where the dusty stalls once did, with bright roofs, wide aisles, and sturdy walls. Freshly painted signs marked each shop. There was a well with a pump in the center, and people took turns, filling buckets with clean water. Lights hung from poles, ready to shine when the sun went down. The traders gathered for the grand opening. They wore their best clothes and carried their goods with joy in their hearts. The opening ceremony began with prayers from both the local pastor and the imam. They blessed the new market and asked for prosperity. People clapped and cheered. Obinna stood at the front with the committee members. He looked proud but humble. He gestured to the stalls. "This is yours," he said. "Take care of it. Sell, buy, and live with dignity." Traders began to move into their stalls. The woman who sold tomatoes arranged her red fruits neatly. The shoe vendor displayed his polished shoes. Musa placed his bicycle repair tools on a shelf. Mrs. Amina hung her smoked fish. Mama Ugo set up her sewing machine near the entrance, and Naneka arranged colorful fabrics beside her. The market buzzed with life again. Laughter and calls filled the air. It was a new beginning. As people settled in, Obinna made his way to the center of the market. He climbed on a small platform and raised his hand. Silence fell. He took a deep breath. "Today is a day of celebration," he said. "We have built a new market together. We have stood against injustice. We have learned that unity is powerful. But there is something else we must do. We must honor those who stood up when it mattered. We must remember the courage of those who protected us." He turned toward Mama Ugo's shop. "Mama Ugo," he called. The elderly woman looked up, surprised. "Please come forward." Mama Ugo stood slowly, leaning on her cane. Neka supported her. They walked to the platform. Obinna smiled at them warmly. "Mama, when others mocked me, you gave me food and blessed me. Naneka, when men attacked me, you risked your life to hide me. When the chief threatened me, you stood between us. You showed courage and kindness. You saw a man when others saw only a yam seller. Without you, I might not be standing here today. I honor you today." He turned to the crowd. "Let us honor them," he said. The crowd clapped and cheered loudly. Some shouted, "Thank you, Mama." Others called, "Neka, our hero." Neka blushed and looked down. Mama Ugo wiped tears from her eyes. Obinna continued. "As a sign of my gratitude, I am giving Mama Ugo a permanent stall here rent-free," he announced. "And I am giving Naneka a sewing machine and capital to expand her business. This is not payment. It is recognition of your courage. You earned this with your hearts." Gasps of joy echoed through the market. Mama Ugo cried openly. Naneka covered her mouth with her hand. She looked at Obinna, her eyes shining. she whispered. "Thank you," but he shook his head slightly. "No," he whispered back. "Thank you." As the celebration continued, people danced and sang. A local band played drums and flutes. Children ran between stalls laughing. Women ululated. Men lifted bowls of palm wine and toasted. Obinna danced with the elders. He felt light and free. But in the midst of the joy, Nneka slipped away. She walked toward the back of the market, where the old stalls once stood. The ground was clear now, but she remembered the yam stand that once stood there. She stood quietly, thinking about the journey from that day to this. She felt grateful, but she also felt overwhelmed. She needed a moment alone. Obinna noticed she was gone. He excused himself from the dancing and followed. He found her standing where his old stand had been. He walked up slowly and stood beside her. "You found the spot," he said softly. She nodded. "This is where it all began," she replied. "This spot changed everything." "It did," he agreed. "I will never forget it." They stood in silence, letting the memories wash over them. They remembered the teasing, the kindness, the threats, the reveal. It all felt distant and immediate at the same time. Obinna turned to her. "Nneka," he said, his voice gentle. "I have something to ask you." She looked at him, surprised. "What is it?" she asked. He took a deep breath. "I do not want to rush anything, but I also do not want to hide my heart," he said. "I told you I wanted to be more than friends. I have thought about it every day. I know there is still healing to do. I know we are different. I know there will be challenges. But I also know that my life feels better when you are in it. I feel complete when I see your smile. I feel safe when I hear your voice. I want to walk life's road with you, slowly, patiently. Will you consider being my partner? Not because I am rich, but because I am me." Nneka's heart raced. She looked into his eyes. She saw sincerity and vulnerability. She saw the boy she had fed, and the man she had fought beside. She saw their future, simple and complicated, full of hard work and laughter. She felt fear, but she also felt love. She realized that love was not about certainty. It was about trust. She smiled softly. "I will consider it," she said. "And I think I will say yes, but on one condition." Obinna laughed nervously. "Name your condition," he said. "That you will still roast yam at least once a month in this spot." She said, half serious, half playful. "Because that is who you are. And I don't want to lose the man who roasted yam and gave me food when I was hungry." Obinna laughed deeply. Relief and joy flooded through him. "I promise," he said. "Once a month, we will roast yam together. And you will sew me a shirt while I roast." "Deal," she said, and they both laughed. Their laughter rang out, mixing with the music from the market. It felt like a promise, not just between them, but between their past and future. They clasped hands. His larger hand enveloped her smaller one. It felt right. They walked back to the market together. People saw them holding hands and cheered. Some teased them playfully. Mama Ugo smiled widely and nodded. The elders whispered blessings. It seemed as if the whole village approved. Obinna's security guards even smiled, relieved that their boss looked truly happy for the first time in a long time. As the day wound down, people packed their stalls. The sun began to set, casting long shadows and painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was another beautiful evening. Obinna walked Nneka and her mother back to the compound. They ate dinner together with the guards and some of the workers. They laughed and shared stories. Later, as the stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, Obinna and Nneka sat on the porch again. They held hands and talked about dreams.